Welcome to It Can Be You, speaking with entrepreneurs to uncover the why behind their success. Today we're speaking to Peter Madrigal, from BUSBOY to Big Dreams. So being the face of a company, I started Fashion Ovation back 7 years ago, and we built the whole company around me as the brand image. And that was really scary to me because I think we all have this feeling that, there are things about us that people will love, and there are things about us that people won't relate to or understand, therefore maybe sometimes not like. And it took me a long time to find out and figure out and be okay with the fact that you're not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody's gonna like you. Not everybody's gonna like what you have to say. But then you'll have your super fan group that loves what you say and what you do, and they're your support system through building whatever it is that you're building. And I remember being the face of Fashion Ovation many times. I had major imposter syndrome, which I still do today. And I remember, one time in particular, I was invited to have lunch with Susan Rockefeller at the Rockefeller Plaza in New York, and it was one of the restaurants in there. And I remember walking up to the restaurant and going, oh my God, I'm going to tell the person that's going to sit me down that I'm there to meet Susan Rockefeller. They're going to look at me and say, are you sure you're meeting? Why is she meeting you? I had this fear. And I remember walking in and being they're like, who are you? Do you have a table reservation? I'm like, yeah, I'm here to have lunch with Susan Rockefeller. And saying it out loud just felt really strange to me. I felt very insecure about it. And that was just one of many moments that I had because of working with such big names in different industries while running that business. And the way that I got out of that a little bit, and I still have it here and then, but it's through surrounding myself with people that allowed me to be 100% me and believing in who that person was, for then me to have more belief in myself when going into those situations and thinking, wait, if they're giving me that time to spend with me, it means that I'm giving them some type of value because their time is very valuable. And I had to just keep saying that to myself over and over again. So it's very tough. The scrutiny is tough. You do get a lot of criticism because, again, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But I think the main thing is to practice just inner strength through meditation, through whatever way you get that, and again through being around people that really love and support you.
I think I can handle it.
Get your act together!
Let's get roses, please!
Hey, come on, man! I got 4 people waiting for me. I'm not going back here with 3 drinks!
I know, it's coming.
With a twist, absolute on the rocks, Newbies and tonic, and a velvet hammer.
Is that what I ordered?
And a ring, a Molson, and a Cuba Libre.
What was that?
A Molson and a Cuba Libre.
You guys working for me. In 2 weeks, you'll be famous.
I've been famous for 10 years. Just give me the money.
So this is something that I haven't talked about when I talk about my many lives. In my late 20s, early 30s, I would host pop-ups to give opportunities to emerging brands around the world. And when I came in my 30s, early 30s to LA, and I went to SIR, and I visited the space, and I was very awed by it, I decided to reach out to the founders and ask them if they wanted me to host my events at their space and do a collaboration. And that came about. And I remember it was the first season of when Vanderpump Rules first started filming, when I would host these events at SIR. And the cast members were actually working my events as waiters and bartenders and busboys and all of the things that they were doing before they became reality celebrities that they are today. And so it's kind of fun and it's a humbling thing that I got to know Peter Madrigal and other cast members and the founders in the beginning of this journey, which has led now to this huge show in Bravo that everyone knows. And so I've had the opportunity to really get to know them, pre-spotlight to being in the spotlight. And what really warms my heart is that the people that I met 15 years back that are now who I'm interviewing today, they haven't changed the essence of who they are. even after all of those, spotlight moments, which sometimes can deter someone from who they were and who they are. And that really is something that I value about them. When watching these movies and TV shows, it always looks easy, but it's definitely not as easy as it seems. And so I'm really excited for this episode today, where we're going to see some of those struggles and how it is to overcome them to get to the other side. You're listening to It Can Be You with Jordana. Today I'm here with Peter Madrigal, the founder of Reality Network and a cast member of Vanderpump Rules. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jordana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic, actually. This is an interesting morning so far.
It's going to get more interesting.
I hope so. I hope so.
So the first question I have for you is for anybody out there who watches this and hasn't heard of you before. How do you define yourself? Who is Peter Madrigal?
Who am I? Wow, that's an interesting question. I've never actually thought about that myself. Who am I as a person? No, I'm actually, I have a very determined outlook on life. I'm very determined. I'm a go-getter. I get up at like 6 a.m. So that's the way I would define myself. It's like, I'm one of the best people you'll ever know.
So I want to go back now all the way to Little Peter. Little Peter Madrigal.
Little Peter Madrigal. Okay.
When you were, I don't know, go back to like your childhood.
Yeah.
What was little boy Peter like?
Little boy Peter. I mean, it's basically the same. I was the oldest of 7. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. My parents were Roman Catholics, so they got together and got busy really quick. So because of that, I had to mature very quickly, Okay. I was the most mature out of all of my siblings, because I was, I had to take care of them, you know what I mean? So, and then once I got to high school, I did all the sports. I played, it's funny, I played football, and then I also played golf, because I hit thousands of balls. Thousands. I mean, I was on the junior PGA, and it astonishes a lot of people to learn that fact about me. And then, it took place on season, I think 5 or 6 of VPR when we went to Cancun, Mexico. And I remember telling the producers, because they asked, "Oh, Peter, you want to play some golf with the guys?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I was on the junior PGA, and they were like, "Sure you were." Right? And then I'm putting for birdie, and then I hit the par on the hole, and I get back to, after we were done filming, I get back to the clubhouse. This is when I had short hair, no facial hair. Get back to the clubhouse, and I remember one of the producers coming up to me and was like, "I guess we do have a pro golfer here," So yeah, no, I was very athletic, but I was also very into intellectual.
Okay.
So I went to school at USC. I was kind of an overachiever.
An interesting thing you said is that you were the oldest, so you felt like you needed to be like the example for your younger siblings.
Well, it wasn't just that, but I also had to play dad a lot. So I had to make sure, my parents would be like, "Oh, you're responsible for babysitting." It's like, it's a lot of responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of translated into who I am today as a person.
That's interesting. Yeah. It's funny. I'm the oldest of 3 or 4. I'm the oldest girl, and I was the most rebellious, and they took care of me even though I was the oldest.
Wow. That's the exact opposite. Exact opposite. I sweir. That's funny. That's interesting.
Yeah. So what would younger Peter say to Peter today?
Impressive, most impressive. Actually, I honestly, I'd want to go back in time and tell younger Peter, the one that was like 28, 29, just starting on Vanderpump Rules, I'd want to slap him across the face a few times.
Why?
I don't know. I was just, I look back on it, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? And as you get older, you become way more mature. And that's definite in my book. So yeah, I'd want to, I think that I rebelled a little bit post-college, because I got done with all that, and I wanted to get out of college very quickly. Like my senior year of college, it was spring break. Everyone went on spring break, and I stayed behind, and I wrote all my term papers. I finished them all that week. Wow. That spring break, yeah. I remember one of my fellow classmates, because at that point I only had 2 exams. So it's 4 classes, 4 term papers, 2 exams. So literally I only had to make class and study 2 more times.
Yeah.
And that was it for the rest of the semester. So I partied. You know, that's when the rebellious phase started. It didn't start in high school or college. I want to get done with all that stuff, and then I started partying harder. So I kind of I was a little bit more devil may care, in my late 20s and early 30s. Nowadays, I'm back to being that mature guy, and I'm just like, what the hell? You know?
Do you feel like you mentioned growing up and like feeling like you had to take care of your siblings and things like, and growing up quickly because of that, or being very mature?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you feel like you had were those expectations that were put onto you felt by your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you have been a different Peter little kid had it not been for those pressures?
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I could get a time machine and go take care of everybody. And and allow younger Peter to really I like the way I grew up because it became because of all the experiences that I had, it made me the man I am today. Although I'd like to go back in time and clear up some of those other little things I don't like.
Yeah,
you know?
which I mean, we all have those. Yeah, but those are what makes us the bad and the good, right?
No, it's the truth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, question for you: so Vanderpump Rules.
Yes.
You were working at Sir.
Yes.
Did you always want to be a reality celebrity and be on a show?
So originally I moved out to Los Angeles to get in the business, to be in movies. Ooh, and so I went to college. I went to USC just for acting, theater arts. And then I started working at Sir. I became a busser at Sir.
Okay. Before the show was a thing.
Oh, yeah. This was 2008.
Okay.
I've been at Sir since 2008.
Okay.
Think about that. That's a long time.
So the first time I went to Sir, I was 30, which is 15 years ago.
There you
so
go.
you were, and it wasn't, it was like a little cafe. I was telling them. It was completely different.
Yeah, it was like 2010.
Yeah.
So I started as a busser. I remember Guillermo hiring me. Like I came in, this was like, yeah, you're hired. Basically, that was my interview. I was like, okay, because I was a busser. And then 6 months later, I became a server. I already knew how to bartend. So I've been bartending since 2006. Okay. So as far as mixology goes and all that stuff, that just became me. Because one of the things that drove me into mixology was I could never get the consistency of a margarita right. And I love margaritas.
Me too. I never find a good margarita.
Yeah. But they were always like, use the gun. And I'm just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. And I remember bartending a couple of times in the early part of Sir, when they put me behind the bar, because I knew how to make a mojito. I knew all the measurements for everything, Yeah. But the margarita always eluded me. Okay, because it was all like too much of the gun, too little of the gun, not enough, so finally, I remember coming up with, all right, so fruit is the best direction to go. I'm going to muddle all this fruit, and that's going to be my margarita. So I started developing the Peterita. Mm-hmm. So I did three, So I did 3 lime wedges, a lemon wedge, and an orange wedge. Muddle all that together. A little bit of half an ounce of Cointreau. At the time, it was triple sec, but I decided to use Cointreau. I switched to Cointreau as I developed. Half an ounce of Cointreau, 2 ounces of tequila. Shake it and strain it over ice. I didn't need any extra sugar because that was the orange. So. And personally, I like to use a little tangerine because that's a little bit sweeter. Mm-hmm. So it was an all-natural. I'll never forget, there was a celebrity that came in, and he ordered 10 of them. That's how good they were. And I finally, because I had a bunch of margaritas sent back to me while I was bartending. So that's kind of like the segue into, I'm gonna really learn how to make some really good drinks. And this is all the time trying to go on auditions and all that stuff. This was in 2008. 2010, and then 2010, that's when they started the expansion into the other part of the Sir. Started the expansion to the other part of creating Sir Lounge. Mm-hmm. And that was still a year before we got word that, we're going to do a TV show called Vanderpump Rules. I was one of the first people cast on it.
Okay.
So I always say I've been part of it since the inception.
During COVID, you use your Instagram to talk to people, make drinks. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. And I think it's interesting. That's where the next question comes in is I feel like I've known you now for a few years, through talking here and there, seeing each other. But I always felt like you were this very giving person. When I see you at Sir, you're always making sure that everybody feels comfortable. In your show during COVID, you were always like bringing people on to speak with you and like interacting and making people feel like they weren't alone. And even like recently, like I remember we had a dinner right at Sir, and you remembered my birthday, which is super special because I feel like, you really care about people.
Oh, yeah.
And usually, and I'm not saying that reality celebrities don't, but that world and that balance, like how do you maintain Peter, the person that you are, who's this like humble, incredible being that really cares about people, and then be on a show where you have so much drama, and how do you balance those two worlds?
You mean like not turning into an arrogant ass? I'm kidding. No, I always appreciate as many like if you're a good person, then I'm gonna align with you. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And everything's fleeting. It really is. I mean, a blink of an eye. I'll never forget this one story that one of the original bar managers at Sir told me, and I'll never forget it. It was we were shooting season 2 of Vanderpump Rules, and I was turning 30. I'm 40. I'm going to be 42 in June. Okay. And I'll never forget it. Steven, he told me, he was all like, "Oh, you're turning 30 right now. Enjoy your 30s because they're going to flash before you like a blink of an eye." And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, it's all about like what you accomplish in your life and the people you are able to affect.
Yeah.
So if I can just be a good person and affect people in a positive manner, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I love that. And being on the show, did you face? Because I know like this show as an example, it just started, but my biggest fear going into starting this was like I don't know if I can, because I don't know if I can take any type of like scrutiny. People are mean, right? People can like write. So like, how do you deal with like making sure that you stay strong and like?
Well, one thing that I do is I just avoid the negativity. It's not, you don't have to don't concentrate on the negativity.
Yeah.
Concentrate on the positive.
Yeah.
Because, negativity, like what's the point?
Yeah.
It's like, if you're talking about like online stuff, you're arguing with people that'll never actually say it to your face.
Yeah, it's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially someone like me.
Yeah. You're like, no one will mess with me.
No.
So now going to this question, with running a successful company that you have today with a reality network, being on a show, doing all the things that you do, how do you manage your personal life in a place like LA? Like
I don't have a personal life.
So is that difficult to find? Like, I don't know if are you in a relationship right now? So how is that like difficult?
Here's the thing. I think I've chosen the success of my company over anything personal at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've gone after relationships before in the past, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go after building this company and making something because I want to build this company into something magnificent. I want to get it to a huge status.
Yeah.
That's
and do you
my
feel
goal.
like you have to choose between one and the other?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like that. So right now I'm filming my own show.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the time this episode comes out, that will be announced.
That's exciting.
I'm also, and in the middle of the summer, I want to be filming another show. I want to see if I can get around to Bar Brawl, which is a bartender competition show, and I've been pitching that around town since 2015. Hell, the original pitch materials, I had short hair. That was the short hair, the 2 seasons of short hair for Peter on VPR. That was seasons 5 and 6. That's when I was pitching that show. So that's 10 years ago. That's 2015, or 16, 17, around there.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of other things that I'm waiting on an email for. A couple other shows.
So a lot going on.
So there's a lot. There's about I'm looking at 5 or 6 originals middle of this year, next year. And that was my whole goal of 2025 is, okay, so I got the company started with syndication. Now I want expansion with originals.
Yeah.
You
do believe that because you're building an empire, which you're going to do, I'm sure of it, the relationship thing doesn't really work at the same time. And it's also like too much effort on both, right? So you have to just focus on one, Yeah. So how do you, like, in terms of like friendships and people that you let close to you, Like, are you somebody who has kind of like a circle that you can have as that like support, like people by your side, let's say?
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell me a little bit about that.
So I have a couple of people that are like in my immediate circle right now.
Yeah.
And, those are some people that I rely on thoroughly, and they're the ones that, you ever see my favorite show, my favorite sitcom of all time. Everyone's all like, Friends. Like, no.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
It's one of my favorites. So in Seinfeld, there's one episode where Jerry's dating this woman, and then she puts Jerry on the number one on the speed dial on her phone, right? These are, this is the 90s, right? So she puts number one speed dial, and the stepmom gets all jealous because I've been working on that list for 7 years or something. So I have my own speed dial list that's on the top of my my text messages. There's about 6 people there.
That you can count on.
Yeah, that I can count on. Yes, absolutely.
That's very cool. Yeah, I think we all need that in order to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now, shape-wise, you're always working out. You take care of yourself.
I try.
How do you keep in shape mentally and physically? Tell me about your wellness practices. Like, how do you maintain that also in the crazy life that you live with all of the things?
Yeah, so this year I made a concerted effort to stop drinking as much. Actually, it's a continuation of last year. Okay. So 2024 is when I really started taking months off of drinking, you know. It's just bad habits from years, you know what I mean? But as long as you recognize it and you're like, okay, well, So nowadays, it's gotten to a point where it's like I took dry January, then I went dry for about a month just recently, because I was all like, wait, I'm drinking way too much in the middle of March. I was like, all right, shut it down. And then this past weekend, I decided to go out and have a good time. But like yesterday, I didn't drink. Today, I'm not drinking.
So you're balancing more.
Yeah, I'm way more balanced. Also, a lot of fasting. I have a couple of meetings after this particular interview, so I hope that they're not lunch meetings. We'll see. Otherwise, I'm going to have to extend it to because I like to do 48-hour fast, 72. Like the longest I've done is 72 hours.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then of course, like I wake up and I hit the gym. Today I didn't do that, so I'm going to go in the afternoon.
Yeah.
This afternoon.
And what about like mentally? Like, how do you center yourself? Do you do like meditation?
I like to do a little bit of meditation. I like binaural beats.
Okay.
So that like really like gets your mind focused. But working out also does that. Working out really clears the mind.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Gets you on get that runner high going, then all of a sudden it's like everything just kind of opens up.
Now I remember I separated maybe a year ago now, but in the beginning of the separation, I would just get on a Peloton. I would literally ride as hard as I could and cry hysterically at the same time. I mean, if there were videos, people would be like, this girl is crazy. But after I would get off the bike, after crying for an hour and working out like the workout of my life, I would feel everything was okay. Better. Oh my God, It was amazing. I always say Peloton like saved like my mental health during that for sure, which is really cool.
That's cool.
What working out can do. So we're going to play a little game and I'm going to give you 3 words and you just have to say quick answers to each of these 3 things.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So first one, how do you feed your mind?
Exercise.
Okay. How do you feed your body?
Protein.
How do you feed your spirit?
Meditation.
Okay. Well, I love talking to you. I love I feel like you have so many facets to you, and I feel like this will just give people a little bit more maybe than what they've known before. And I think, I don't know, you're kind of like, you're very, I don't know, I'm very spiritual, and I feel this energy from you that there's so much more than like even what you've told us today. But you kind of keep that innately inside of you.
I have to. There's some things you have to stay. You have to stay mysterious.
No, you
in
have
some
to tell
ways.
us everything.
You have to stay mysterious. I'm sorry. Then all the mystery goes, and then everyone's all like, "Oh, I know too much about him."
No, but I feel like you're a very easy person to love, and I really appreciate you being on the show.
You,
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So as we saw in the interview, Peter always had dreams of being in the entertainment industry. And we see through actions and sometimes universe aligning, things can fall into place and making dreams come true. It too can be you.